In this lesson, we will take a look at how to convert fractions into decimals. To convert a fraction into a decimal, we use long division. We can use the acronyms TIBO and NITO, which stand for top in, bottom out, and numerator in, denominator out, or Norman and the donkey, which works like this. Norman rides the donkey, and when it rains, Norman goes inside and the donkey stays outside. You can use any of those strategies to convert a fraction into a decimal. Finally, make sure you remember to line up your decimals before you start dividing. Let's take a look at some examples. We have number 1, 2 over 5, or 2 divided by 5, or 2/5. Let's go ahead and use NITO. Numerator in, denominator out. So my numerator 2 goes inside, and my denominator 5 goes outside. So numerator in, denominator out. Make sure you line up your decimals before you begin. All right, so 5 goes into 2, 0 times. 5 times 0 is 0. Next, we want to see if it can go into 20. 5 goes into 20, 4 times, perfectly. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 gives me a remainder of 0. That means that 2/5, or 2 over 5, or 2 divided by 5, is equivalent to the decimal 0.4. Let's take a look at the second example, 5/8, or 5 divided by 8. Let's use TIBO for this, top in, bottom out. So 5 goes inside, 8 goes outside, top in, bottom out. Line up your decimals and begin. 8 goes into 5, 0 times. 8 times 0 is 0. So now we can try to see if it goes into 50. So 8 goes into 50, 6 times. 8 times 6 is 48. So 50 minus 48, 0 minus 8. We can't do that, so we have to borrow from the neighbor. The 5 becomes a 4. The 0 becomes a 10. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. Because we have a remainder, we have to keep going. So bring down another 0. 8 goes into 20 2 times. That would be 16. 20 minus 16. Once again, 0 minus 6. Can't do that, so we have to borrow from our neighbor. 2 becomes a 1. 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. And 1 minus 1 is 0. Drop another 0. So now 8 goes into 40 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40. So 40 minus 40 gives me a remainder of 0. So 5/8, or 5 divided by 8, is the decimal 0.625. Let's look at another example. 3/4, 3 divided by 4. So Norman and the donkey, very similar to numerator and denominator out, using N and D. So Norman and the donkey, that means that when it rains, Norman goes inside and the donkey stays outside. So 3 divided by 4. 4 goes into 3, 0 times. 4 times 0 is 0. Now we want to see if it goes into 30. 4 goes into 30, 7 times. 4 times 7 is 28. Let's find the remainder. 0 minus 8 we can't do, so we borrow from the neighbor. 3 becomes a 2. 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Bring down a 0. So 4 goes into 20. How many times? It goes in 5 times perfectly. So 20 minus 20 gives me a remainder of 0. That means that 3 divided by 4, or 3/4, is the decimal 0.75. Let's look at one more example. We have 9 over 20, or 9 divided by 20. So let's use TIBO, top in, bottom out. We have 9 goes inside and 20 goes outside. Line up your decimals and let's begin. 20 goes into 9. 20 goes into 9 0 times. 20 times 0 is 0. Now we want to see if 20 goes into 90. 20 goes into 90 4 times. 20 times 4 is 80. 90 minus 80 gives me a remainder of 0 minus 0 is 0. 9 minus 8 is 1. So a remainder of 10. Bring down a 0. So how many times does 20 go into 100? 20 times 5 would give me 100. 100 minus 100 gives me a remainder of 0. That means that 9 over 20, or 9 divided by 20, is the decimal 0.45. All right. So here are some problems for you to try, so you can practice converting these fractions into decimals. And let's go ahead and summarize. So remember that to convert a fraction, we have to use long division. Remember, you can use the acronyms TIBO or NIDO, top in, bottom out, numerator in, denominator out, or you can use Norman and the donkey. Remember that Norman goes inside the house when it rains and the donkey stays outside. And finally, remember to line up your decimals before you actually start dividing. I hope this lesson has been helpful, and if you have any questions, don't forget to reach out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.